The rain pounded against the windshield of Ethan Reynolds' Tesla, once a symbol of his success, now his home. The October Seattle downpour matched his mood as he sat in the Walmart parking lot, staring at his Uber app. 3 years ago, his name graced design magazines as Portland's visionary landscape architect, creator of award-winning LGBTQ+ safe spaces. Now, those same publications documented his spectacular fall. Reynolds Gardens had collapsed under the weight of ambition and hatred. The Pride installation that should have been his masterpiece became his undoing, a social media boycott campaign targeting him not just as a businessman, but as a gay man. The bank foreclosed on the greenhouse his father helped him build. The staff, including his brother Marcus, lost everything. His phone lit up with another missed call from his mother. Their relationship had been strained since he came out at 17. They eventually accepted him, but with the kind of tolerance that felt like disappointment. Now, with the business failure, Ethan had become their twice-failed son. "You've always chosen the difficult path," his father had said during their last conversation, words cutting deeper than any bankruptcy filing. Ethan's finger hovered over his mother's contact. What would he say? That he was sleeping in his car, that David had taken their adopted daughter and moved to Chicago after the divorce, that he'd been eating cold canned soup because he couldn't afford the gas station microwave fee. The phone's screen reflected his face, the bags under his eyes, the untrimmed beard, the hollowness where pride once lived. At 32, Ethan Reynolds had become a ghost of himself, driving strangers around a city that wasn't home, avoiding the whispers that followed his name in Portland. The Uber app pinged, airport pickup. Ethan glanced at his gas gauge, hovering dangerously close to empty. One more day, he thought, his daily mantra, the prayer of the fallen. Just survive one more day. He drove past spaces he once would have redesigned, reimagined. The botanical garden where he'd once lectured about inclusive design principles now seemed to mock him. Success too invisible happened quickly in America, especially for those who dared to stand out twice. Ethan had no idea that in exactly 47 minutes, a dying stranger would hand him a check that would change everything, or that this stranger's story would be woven through his in ways that would make him question everything he thought he knew about family, forgiveness, and the unexpected roads that lead us home. Follow Heart Stories for the next chapter of this journey, where a chance meeting becomes the catalyst for an extraordinary transformation. Sometimes the universe has plans far greater than our failures. William Harrison stood at Terminal B, embodying old money and quiet power. His silver hair and Italian leather shoes spoke of boardrooms and influence, but his eyes, hollow and searching, told a different story. Those eyes recognized something in Ethan that went beyond the faded jeans and worn sneakers. They recognized kinship and loss. The Tesla's interior still smelled faintly of the premium leather Ethan had once been so proud of. William settled into the back seat, his breathing labored but controlled. The small rainbow pin on Ethan's dashboard caught his attention, a remnant from better days, when Ethan proudly displayed his identity instead of hiding behind silence. "Reynolds Gardens," William said suddenly, studying Ethan's profile in the rearview mirror. "I recognize you from that controversy last year, the Pride Plaza that caused such a stir." Ethan's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "That's me, the gay landscaper who aimed too high." William's laugh contained no mockery, only a sad recognition. "My son had ambitions too. He wanted to take our regional tech company national when the market wasn't ready. We fought terribly about it." The rain intensified, creating a private chamber of sound around them. William continued, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "That was 30 years ago. October 1995, the day before his 21st birthday. I'd bought him a watch with an inscription, 'Patience builds empires.' He threw it across my office." Ethan glanced in the mirror, catching William pressing fingers against his eyes. "My son, Ethan," William said, showing a faded photograph on his phone. The young man in the image could have been Ethan's brother, same determined eyes, same defiant smile. "He'd be about your age now. He took his life 3 weeks after our fight." The revelation hung between them like a physical presence. Ethan's throat tightened. Same name, same pain, same rejection. "Pull over," William requested as they neared downtown. "Please, I need a moment." In a deserted viewpoint overlooking the Sound, William shared his real purpose in Seattle, not just visiting his son's grave for the first time since the funeral, but searching for Michael Reynolds, a man William believed was his son's secret partner. "I've spent 30 years looking for connections to my son," William explained. "Anonymous donations to LGBTQ+ organizations, funding research, searching for Michael, who disappeared after Ethan's funeral." William's voice broke. "The doctors gave me 3 weeks. Pancreatic cancer. After decades searching, I finally traced Michael Reynolds to Seattle, only to discover he died 5 years ago in a car accident. Another chance lost." Ethan sat perfectly still, his mind racing to his family tree. Michael Reynolds, his mother's cousin who died in that crash. The cousin no one discussed, the family secret. "Reynolds isn't a unique name," Ethan offered cautiously. William's gaze sharpened. "Michael had your eyes. That distinctive Reynolds feature my son fell in love with." William pulled out his checkbook, hands trembling. "This isn't for the ride. This is about destiny bringing us together when I'd lost all hope." He pressed a check and business card into Ethan's palm. "Don't look at this until tonight, but promise me you'll call your family. Tell them you love them. Tell them you're sorry. Tell them anything except nothing." His eyes burned with urgency. "I would give everything I have for one more conversation with my son, one more chance to say he was right, that his impatience came from passion, not disrespect." The check felt impossibly heavy in Ethan's pocket as he drove William to the Four Seasons. Neither spoke, but the silence held the weight of 30 years of searching and 6 months of falling. The check for $20,000 seemed to glow in the dim light of Ethan's Tesla. He sat in the familiar Walmart parking lot, rain drumming on the roof, William's words echoing in his mind. With trembling fingers, he dialed his father's number. Robert Reynolds answered on the second ring, concern immediately flooding his voice. The conversation began awkwardly, but quickly crumbled into raw honesty. Ethan spoke of William, of the eerie connection between them, of the weight of disappointing everyone who believed in him. He confessed his fear not just of failure, but of being seen as failed. Twice rejected, once for who he loved, once for what he'd lost. His father's response came not in lectures, but in car keys turning in an ignition. "I'm coming to get you, Gatito," Robert said simply. No son of mine sleeps in a parking lot. The Reynolds family home in Portland welcomed Ethan back with cautious arms. His mother's embrace felt tentative at first, then fierce as though making up for lost time. They spoke until dawn about the bankruptcy, about David taking their daughter, about the years of strained acceptance that never quite became celebration. The conversation wasn't perfect, but it was real, a beginning rather than an end. Morning arrived with a phone call that changed everything. Jessica Brenner, William's attorney, delivered the news with gentle precision. William Harrison had passed peacefully in his sleep at the Four Seasons. Before dying, he had rewritten his entire will, leaving his technology empire and personal fortune $120 million to Ethan Reynolds. The mahogany-paneled law office felt surreal as Jessica explained. "Mr. Harrison believed your meeting was divinely orchestrated," she said, sliding forward a sealed envelope. "He left this for you." William's handwritten letter revealed the truth that connected them. 30 years ago, William's son Ethan had fallen in love with Michael Reynolds, Ethan's mother's cousin. Their relationship remained secret due to both families' conservative values. After young Ethan's suicide, Michael had disappeared. Carrying a secret William discovered only through private investigators, Michael had arranged for a surrogate pregnancy using young Ethan's preserved genetic material. The child born from this arrangement, Noah Wilson, had been adopted by the surrogate's family after Michael's death. William had searched for decades, following leads that eventually connected him to the Reynolds family, culminating in the seemingly random Uber ride. "Your cousin Michael was the love of my son's life," William wrote. Finding you feels like recovering a piece of both of them. You are family, Ethan, in all the ways that matter. As Ethan lowered the letter, his phone began buzzing with notifications. Someone had leaked the story. News outlets were speculating about the mysterious gay Uber driver who had inherited a tech fortune. Opinion pieces debated the ethics of inheritance and LGBTQ+ rights. His past failures and present windfall collided in a media storm that threatened to define him once again through others' eyes. But this time, Ethan Reynolds sat surrounded by family imperfect, healing, present. This time, he wasn't facing the world alone. The San Francisco Community Center bustled with activity, teenagers laughing in safe space workshops, volunteers preparing care packages, counselors leading support groups. At the center of this organized chaos stood Noah Wilson, his confident voice directing operations with practiced ease. At 34, he had built Found Family, a nonprofit supporting LGBTQ+ youth rejected by their biological relatives, into a nationally recognized organization. Ethan watched from the doorway, struck by Noah's familiar features. The Reynolds eyes, the determined set of his jaw that mirrored the faded photograph of young Ethan Harrison. Here, unknowingly, stood the living legacy of both Michael and William's son, a genetic bridge between families separated by tragedy. Their first meeting unfolded nothing like Ethan had imagined. Noah's welcoming expression hardened when Ethan introduced himself. The media storm surrounding William's inheritance had reached even this sanctuary. "So you're the sudden millionaire," Noah said, arms crossing defensively. "I've been getting calls from reporters asking about a family connection I know nothing about." In Noah's cluttered office, Ethan presented William's letter, photos of Michael, and offered to take a day test. Noah's skepticism remained palpable. "Even if this is true, what do you want from me?" "A share of your windfall media attention for my organization." The tension fractured slightly when Ethan opened William's financial records. For 7 years, anonymous donor WH had provided substantial funding to Found Family William, supporting his grandson's work from afar, never revealing his identity. "He knew about me," Noah whispered, finger tracing the donation entries. "He spent 30 years searching," Ethan confirmed. "First for Michael, then for you. Finding me was his consolation, someone connected to the man his son loved." Over the following weeks, DNA tests confirmed what William's letter had claimed. Noah and Ethan shared genetic markers that could only come from their intertwined family trees. The scientific proof created space for something more valuable: shared stories. Noah spoke of growing up with loving adoptive parents who never hid his unique origins. Ethan shared memories of Michael, the cousin who taught him to stand tall when he came out, who disappeared shortly after, leaving only whispered family rumors. When William's memorial service arrived, they stood side by side, the nephew and grandson of a man who spent his life seeking reconciliation. The corporate titans and political figures filling the Seattle Cathedral watched curiously as these two strangers claimed places reserved for family. Ethan's phone buzzed during the eulogy, a message from Marcus, his brother. "After months of silence, I saw you on the news. We should talk." The olive branch, tentatively extended. In the cemetery afterward, Noah and Ethan lingered at the gravesite, now marking father and son reunited. Rain fell softly, not the punishing downpour of their first encounter, but a gentle reminder of how quickly landscapes can transform. "What will you do with it all?" Noah finally asked. "The money, the company, the attention." Ethan thought of William's words about empires built on patience and passion, of Michael's courage in preserving love against all odds, of his own journey from celebrated to invisible and back again. "I think," he said slowly, watching the rain create patterns on the marble headstone, "that some inheritances aren't about wealth at all." 1 year after that rainy October encounter, the Harrison Reynolds Foundation headquarters opened in a renovated warehouse district building in Portland. The structure itself told their story, the historic brick exterior preserved while the interior featured open collaborative spaces filled with greenery and light. Ethan's design philosophy manifested in every corner, spaces that welcomed, nurtured, and transformed. The foundation operated with three core missions, providing financial bridges to struggling LGBTQ+ entrepreneurs, creating safe physical spaces in underserved communities, and advocating for legislative protections. Their blockchain-based funding application system, built by Harrison Technologies engineers, ensured transparent, bias-free evaluation of business proposals. Marcus Reynolds managed the financial portfolio, his analytical mind perfectly suited to making Williams' fortune generate sustainable support for generations. Noah Wilson directed educational programs, bringing his expertise from found family to develop mentorship networks. Ethan designed the community spaces, hands-on in transforming abandoned properties into vibrant centers. The viral video of Ethan sharing their interconnected story had sparked what social media dubbed the second chance movement. The comment sections filled with stories of people reaching across estrangement, healing family wounds, supporting small businesses owned by marginalized entrepreneurs. In a quiet ceremony marking the anniversary of Williams' passing, hundreds gathered in the foundation's central garden. People whose businesses had been saved, families who had reconciled, youth who found shelter in the safe spaces, all connected by the ripples of one chance encounter. Ethan still drove for Uber every Thursday morning, not from necessity, but as a reminder and an opportunity. The Tesla had been upgraded, but his approach remained unchanged, present, listening, watchful for those moments when strangers might become something more. On this particular morning, his passenger was a young designer whose sustainable landscaping business was failing after conservative clients abandoned him for being too vocal about climate justice and LGBTQ+ rights. The young man's story poured out during the airport drive, familiar in its contours of passion meeting prejudice. As they arrived at departures, Ethan handed him a business card. "Sometimes," he said, "strangers are just family we haven't recognized yet." The young man accepted the card with confusion that turned to hope as he read the Harrison Reynolds Foundation logo. Why would you help someone you just met? Ethan thought of William, of the rainy night that changed everything, of the unexpected roads that lead us home, because 30 years is too long to wait for second chances. Have you ever experienced a moment when a stranger's kindness, it changed your life's direction, or been the person who offered that pivotal help? Share your story in the comments below. And subscribe to Heart Stories for more journeys that remind us we're all just one conversation away from transformation, sometimes in the most unexpected places, like the back seat of a rideshare on a rainy October morning.